Well, hello, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, episode 27 of the Thursday Exchange. I know we took a week off, but we have a very interesting conversation for you tonight. There's a lot going on in the world, and I think there's a lot of topics we should discuss.
Yep.
Before we get too deep into tonight's episode, our hearts go out to all those that have lost their lives with the building collapse in Florida. It's beyond tragic.
It's up to 60 now, right?
Yeah, it's up to 60, and I can't imagine, what's going through the family members' minds as, kind of this rescue has kind of been put on the back burner. Now it's a recovery mission. It's over a week now.
They're stopping I heard them say that they were stopping the search dogs because at this point the likelihood of finding someone alive or they're stopping the ones that are looking for search and rescue. Mm-hmm. It's really tragic because it reminds me a lot of like the aftermath of 9/11 in the sense of like just the shock of it. I mean,
yeah.
And then the conspiracy theories that run around it as well. Just there's all sorts of, you don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I read some of the conspiracy theories.
They seem a little flimsy to me, but
I don't really buy it. I mean, what it seems like on the building is there was a lot of neglect. People knew about these issues for a very long time. They had reported these issues and they just kind of turned a blind eye. And this is what happens when you turn a blind eye. And after this horrible tragedy, now there's a bunch of other flagged buildings in Florida that they're like, this could be the next building that possibly collapses,
Well, it was like they suddenly fixed all the highways in LA after that giant earthquake. I mean, they had to fix them regardless, but still, there were a lot of like structural problems from what I understand. Not to mention, I mean, there's a reason why they're doing an infrastructure bill, which now what's in that bill is another story altogether, how many handbacks and kickbacks there are, but the general idea of putting money towards our infrastructure seems like a good idea at this day and age, rather than putting it towards like any number of other stupid things.
Absolutely. I mean, we're at the stage now, like where's our money going and our taxes going? And I think it's important that it's put back into our country. Safety, having you know as well as I do how many times you drive over a bridge and you were like, is this going to make it?
Well, for me, that doesn't go through my head because I like heights. For you, it's different. But there are other situations where, like, if I'm standing, like, in a construction area that's not well maintained, like, is something going to fall on my head, or is this elevator going to get stuck? Like, those are my things that I think about. Me on a bridge, to me, I'm just like, ooh, pretty time.
No, my heart, I'm like having palpitations. I'm like,
dude, I walked over the bridge in Sydney when I went to visit my mom's family. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's like what we're talking about is this is happening in real time. Harris just announced a $25 million investment in voting initiatives by the DNC that really focus around infrastructure and getting things done in that. So it's interesting.
She did something useful.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I think everybody the playing the balancing of politics and trying to get, I guess, bills passed, and that's where I think a lot of the controversy and this conspiracy theories come about is because, unfortunately, we're very reactionary. We wait until tragedies happen to make change. It's sad that a lot of these gun control bills, people look at them like they say that, Sandy Hook and other mass shootings are conspiracies to push gun control agendas. But the sad reality is we wait until these tragedies happen.
We wait until corporations. I truly believe, I mean, I have no way to prove this, so I can't substantiate it unless I were to like research it. But basically, go to any store that sells guns normally over the past few years, like Walmart, Dick's, or any of those places. How many of them have racks that are almost completely empty when that was never the case before? And if you look at the ammunition, not only is it empty, the cost of it. My friend had to kill a pest that was like killing his chickens. and so he needed to buy a couple rounds for his 410 gun. It's like a rifle, just regular hunting. Hey, Gianna Stanton, thanks for coming in. Basically, I'm sorry, I got distracted reading the comments, but basically, it was $1 a bullet.
Yeah.
$1 a bullet, like $10 for 10 shots. What if you're a crappy shot?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Right now, it's like you just don't know which way to turn. But it, like, back to the point, it's sad that we're so reactionary, and a tragedy has to happen. Buildings have to collapse. People have to die before we start pushing smarter legislation.
Pandemics.
Yeah, that is probably the key one we're talking about. America, we're going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but we claim we're the biggest civilized nation out there,
but
yet
we're still human.
We don't have universal health care, and we have some very unhealthy people here in America, whether it's diabetes, cholesterol, and that being said, there's immediately people who say right off the bat whenever you say anything like that, well, how are we going to pay for that? Here's the thing. I'm not saying for us to go like 100% socialist. I see the problems with that, obviously, Stalin, Mao. But there are certain programs that do need to be invested in, and taking care of the health of your people is one of them. I think that's one of them. I think education and health should be primary. And I've been saying this for one, and some people inbox me after the show and they say, but Charles, do you really think that everybody should? Yes, I do. I really think that they should make a law then against insurance companies who basically control what the hospitals charge because they're willing to pay for it because they're getting enough money by fleecing everybody else. Mm-hmm. Then we wouldn't have to worry about the high cost of healthcare if the insurance companies wouldn't jack up their rates so high that you have to charge high prices just to afford the damn thing. Dude, it's really funny. Just off topic, but a few years ago, I needed to go to the doctor. My back was killing me, and I was uninsured. Mm-hmm. That was one of the most poor financial decisions of my life. When I tell you going into the emergency room for something like that was a few $1,000s, literally a few $1,000s. And there was an ambulance. There was no surgery that was taking place. No, we're talking about them doing a few X-rays and cough, which cost about $1,000 each or something like that. Like it was a few how much it cost. $1,000. Now, imagine you're an American and you're extremely sick. You happen to catch COVID. Your lungs are failing, and you're in the hospital for weeks on end. I know a few people who have went bankrupt during this time, especially with last year, destroyed families. I knew a woman who lost both of her parents in the hospital as she was in the hospital fighting for her life with COVID. And, I see GoFundMe's up because she was uninsured and things like that, That's why I push that. But what I'm trying to say is we don't realize there's an issue until kind of shit hits the fan. Yeah. And, I guess we need to all. We're all guilty of it to some degree too. Like, we all were very comfortable. We had our gripes about, let's face it, whether you like him or hate him, Trump is a loudmouth. He is. He would admit that too. I'm pretty sure he'd be like, yeah. I think he would take it as a compliment. Probably. And in some cases, he pointed out a lot of the crap. The problem is now that it's pointed out, it's really hard to ignore, and people are just getting really disillusioned. And I'm not saying it's bad necessarily that we found out all the BS that's going on in government, but I think the only thing that kind of gives me a little bit of hope in terms of like our government process is like, I've been listening to C-SPAN hearings lately. Probably one of the most boring things you could do on your free time. Unless you're a political science major. But I'm just curious to see, like, what exactly are these people doing? Like, all these hearings and everything like that, all these millions of dollars that we're pouring into these freaking trials. And, one thing I will say, while there are some people who are just posturing and being stupid,
and being completely party liner, like 100%. There's quite a few of them that actually make valid points and are actually doing the process of trying to do government. Hey guys, we're getting a lot of comments coming in. Thanks for tuning in. And
it's like a game of tug of war.
Yeah.
A lot of times these people go back and forth debating on the taxpayer dime, and at times, like when we talk about keeping your politicians accountable, I feel like a lot of people over there really truly stand for nothing. It's because you got these same old Joe schmoes that have been in office with old ideas for 60, 70, or not 60, 70 years, but like 40 plus years. Okay.
And Biden started when he was a young man, and now he's got like, old man years.
And that's the thing is, like, and that's what I said too. Like, a lot of the gripes with Biden was the fact that he was in office for 40 plus years. And if he was so about the change he discussed, why didn't it happen during his time? And that's what I say is you got a lot of old people with older ideas. I think you need, like, a couple episodes back, we had Tyler Hutchins on, and we had a young guy trying to run for sheriff. It's exciting to me, whether he's a good candidate or not. It's exciting to see a younger generation of people looking
who is passionate about something, whether or not you agree with them or not. It's nice to see young people being passionate about something other than just destroying things.
Exactly. There is people out there willing to make change. It's like, I think that the older generation has to give the younger generation that opportunity. Give them a chance. You might have some fresh ideas. I don't know.
I do think that, and I also think that in a way it was a beast of its own making too. You look at all the things that we've gone through in the past. Like, we're going to get onto the creative writing. Sorry, we're going a little off tangent.
No, listen, we're still early on in the episode, so we're good. We got a few more.
Exactly, we've got time. So, but the thing that I noticed is, like, even when we were kids, like, the No Kids Left Behind, and then you had the different Regents exams, and then suddenly it seems like the Regents exams got a little easier, and then all these different changes in the system. It's like, plus making rules like you can't have a sport without giving away your trophy. Like, I know everybody says those things, but there is a net effect when you coddle everyone. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't help people. Providing healthcare isn't coddling. Giving a trophy to every kid, if you want a participation trophy, good, but then you should have a better trophy for the ones who actually win.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. Listen, it's kind of like a film festival. I break things down in a film festival type of way. Every single filmmaker that is accepted could put up their, saying official selection. That in itself is a trophy of its own. You are selected out of the thousands of other filmmakers to be a part of our event. Whether you are nominated or win an award with an actual physical trophy at the end, that's a totally different ranking, but you still made it here. Congratulate yourself. And that's what I wish a lot more people would understand, that, you made the team. Did you win the trophy? No, but you're here. You helped us win the championship.
And that's okay to recognize that. Like, that's fine. Like, I got awards like that growing up, and it does make them feel a little bit better, especially when you're a little kid. But once you're getting into, like, high school, I mean, dude, you lost because you suck.
and honestly, that negative impact might allow the gears to shift in the participant's mind to maybe put their focus elsewhere.
Failure can be a catalyst.
It can be. And I mean, I want to say that's my music career. I started off in music and I was like, this isn't for me. I do it for fun. Every so often I'll do it for fun. And I'm like, I'm like that guy who wants to sing in the shower, but I know damn well.
And then I had this realization, I just suck at making music.
It's fun. I think it's like a collective effort that could be fun if, other people were willing to be honest with me, like, Charles, you suck. But moving on, we were talking a little bit about Trump.
How'd you handle that, though?
Oh, someone tell me I suck? What it was
in those words, you'd be like,
I wasn't told I suck, but I was told that everything sounds the same, which is the equivalent.
My music teacher, you're not good enough for me to even bother putting out that music for you, so I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah, everything you record sounds the same. I'm like, oh, thanks. So moving forward, we talked about you said how Trump would probably be complimented with saying he's like off the chain, but apparently Mike Pence reportedly lost it after Trump threw a crumpled newspaper at him back in 2018. I mean, this is one of remember when we used to do this segment on silly stories?
Yeah.
This is funny because now that we know that these two guys,
they're human at least.
they're human, and I mean, listen, Dick Cheney shot somebody in the face, so that's a different story. But I mean, it's funny to know that
in office too.
The fact that Donald Trump threw a newspaper at Mike Pence, I just find that's funny in itself. I'm happy that Mike Pence has a little bit of a backbone, that he at least spoke back, and at least especially after the January 6th riots, he kind of stood his ground, and he realized.
My problem with Mike Pence though is that he stood his ground when it became important to do so to save his own ass.
But you know what? In light of Mike Pence, really, could he say anything else? He ran with somebody who bullied everyone off the stage
and
during the debates,
left, right, and sideways.
So
that was the headline for the first 6 months of his campaign or office.
Yeah, so he was with them every step of the way in the beginning. So
yeah,
really.
But at the end, it just felt kind of like just looking at his face while they were doing it in the Broncos. It was kind of like I'm here with him, kind of just because I have to be.
Yeah,
that was the impression you get, and
there's a lot of speculation that Mike Pence is looking to actually put his foot into the political race.
Almost every vice president does,
and just saying it out there, he'll have no success. Number one, I don't know what Donald Trump was thinking with choosing him. I mean, they couldn't. I guess the opposites are what made it attractive.
Yeah, they chose him because he was considered conservative and well-behaved.
Exactly. He was like the very, very religious conservative candidate to help, scoop up all the, super right-wingers.
As an advisor, it is good to have people who have sometimes vastly different opinions than you, because it can give you, if you're willing to listen to it.
Yeah. So I don't know, but apparently he's looking to jump into the race. But at the same time, the people that are gung-ho about Trump look at Pence as a traitor. And that's all you see all over online is traitor. They're at rallies where Pence is speaking, practically booing him off stage. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's become almost a religion at this point. Which side? For people who are very entrenched, choosing their party is almost like choosing their religion at this point. You can tell them the truth about something. If you you may have seen something happen with your own eyes, and you'll tell them the truth, and they'll tell you you're wrong. It didn't happen that way because it doesn't fit their paradigm.
Yeah, their narrative.
Their view. Yeah, their narrative. It's how did we get to a point where people stop thinking?
Or what's right and wrong? Is this a right thing? Is this infringing on people's civil rights? Is this not right for the people in general, our future generations, the money we're spending? That's a big thing going on right now. A lot of the fiscal conservatives are really worried about where America is going to be in the next 10, 15 years.
It's the reason why Bitcoin seems so attractive is because people are afraid they're going to get freaking screwed.
You can't necessarily blame them. Money is being printed without any true backing. And eventually, you could have $100 in your bank account, but what is it going to mean when that $100 is worthless?
Our yearly deficit before the pandemic, I think, was $1 trillion a year, in excess of what we could actually pay. And then within the year of the pandemic, how many trillions of dollars did we spend?
And it's only rising.
And how much of it's actually gone to where it's supposed to go?
And it's rising. Like I said, they're talking a fourth stimmy. They're already doing payments to people, the child care credit, I believe in a week.
I don't have a problem with necessarily.
No.
I think
I don't have a problem with it, but it's money that we don't have. Whether we have a problem with it or not, we don't have that money. So it's coming from somewhere. And we're going to pay some way or another. But moving on to I think the final story of this week before we get into the main topic. Those of you guys who remember attorney Michael Avenatti, he once represented Stormy Daniels, the porn star who they basically tried to extort Donald Trump, our former president. Is sentenced to 2 years in prison for attempting to extort Nike. Like, this guy...
Did the guy not learn?
This guy, if you've ever seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, he is like Saul Goodman, like the sleaziest lawyer you can know. I mean,
but without the good side to him.
No, I seen him on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and he was really trying to push the Stormy Daniels case, like where like they were releasing details about Donald Trump's penis and how he paid Stormy Daniels off. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Stormy Daniels was paid to, sleep in porn movies with men. Is it really so far-fetched?
More than sleep.
Yes. I mean, is it really so far-fetched that she slept with Donald Trump, who ran like pageants for years and had how many ex-wives? Like, the fact that he paid her off, like, hush money, really wasn't too far-fetched, but this guy really was pushing this agenda. So the fact
and she accepted it?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, at the time, but the fact now that he tried to extort Nike, a massive company, this to me, 2 years isn't long enough. You got to remember, he is an attorney. Okay, so we're talking about a privileged member of our judicial system.
Just look at the cars the guy drives. Like, he walks around like he's the dude from Devil's Advocate, like Keanu Reeves' character.
Mm-hmm. And what just think about it. Someone over here, I'm happy that he's doing time, but when it's somebody of this, conviction, I believe they should throw the book at him.
Yeah, because it's not the first time, like
no,
the president, a corporation, that's not small.
Mm-hmm. So I'm happy. He's right now. I guess he had to say what he had to say. He went on the record. He says, "I alone have destroyed my career, my relationships, my life, and there is no doubt I deserve to have pay, and will have a further price to pay for what I've done." What I see him as fame and power got to his head. Even the judge had said, he basically betrayed his client's trust and sought to enrich himself by weaponizing his public profile.
Yeah,
this to me is no different than a police officer who's abusing his power to harass citizens or whatnot like that. And
you're supposed to be a public servant.
A public servant of this nature, like I said, they should have to pay the ultimate price when they do shit like this.
Yep.
So
before we move on, just one more cool thing that I came across in the news today is that in the tech world, they're coming up with, or they've been working on something called the Gooseberry chip. Now, it is a cryogenic chip which is capable of being frozen at extreme temperatures so that they can make quantum computers work more efficiently. So it's amazing. Like, we went from having the cell phones this big when we were little kids, like little toddlers, to the semi-brick size, to the small stone, to like infinitesimal. It's like, how much more are we gonna go?
Hey, listen.
It's cool, but
I feel like we're going in a way. There's a loop happening. We've seen the videos, the old movies where the people like pulled out their cell phone and it was like the size of a purse. It's like and for a long time the idea was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But now you're seeing phones.
Bigger and bigger.
Now phones are bigger and bigger and bigger, like the size of tablets. People can't even fit them in their jeans.
I drop this thing so often because my hands aren't big enough.
It's one thing, you got the watch on your wrist telling you your text messages and stuff. And you think about it, we say we're going in a loop. I saw that meme a while ago where it showed people with like hieroglyphics from back in the day in ancient Egypt. And we're using emojis now. So it's like one and the same.
Pretty much.
We're going from the tiny device to the giant device with a smaller chip.
And it's not just the kids now. It's like, even on business conversations, like, they're conducted largely through Facebook Messenger, and they include emojis and things like that, which back in the day would have been like, you use an emoji, I will not hire your ass. like what is that?
I think I was having a discussion with someone a week or so ago about like resumes and the importance of resumes. I am like a firm believer that a lot of employers currently don't even require them. I feel like it's a thing of the past in a way.
They require the algorithm on whatever job searching site, just like a dating site. You have your preferences, your distance, your age range, what kind of work they do, what kind of schooling and education they've had. If they don't meet one of those criteria, they immediately get put to the bottom of the pile as a way of making the work less complicated. Problem is, it disqualifies a lot of candidates who may have answered a question the wrong way, even though it's not necessarily pertaining to them.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And that's the problem now. Like sites like Indeed.
Yes.
Big site out there. A lot of people use, probably most people watching have used. If you notice now, a lot of things will say stuff like preferred, the word preferred. Like we prefer you to have 2 years experience, or we prefer you to have a bachelor's or your master's, but not necessary, right? However, with their new rule sets to apply, as soon as you press apply and you don't have your master's, it will say something like, you do not have the qualifications, you cannot apply. Yet it says preferred in the description.
Well, I guess you could apply directly through the company and not through Indeed, but Indeed marks that off as a criteria that the company doesn't want.
But it says preferred. So there's think about all the candidates you're excluding that could possibly be the greatest person for that job, that the site now is saying you can't apply to it, even though it says preferred. So that's a big issue that I have with it. And I've heard complaints from other people. It's wild, but technology, we love it. We hate it. It's very necessary.
Yes. And it's one of the, like, I have patience for people, but machines, when they don't function the way they're supposed to, I'm like, die.
Well, right now with COVID, the big issue is everything is so reliant on the online sources and tools that these companies have given us. Small little disclaimer here. Car issues lately, I have to deal with the DMV.
Me too.
Well,
I don't know if it's like an anniversary of hell or something. Every 6 months, you got to go through some sort of car-related BS.
Well, DMV right now, there's not many like off. You have to schedule your little time.
Middletown's open now.
That's very nice. Well, Sullivan County is not. They've been closed for almost a year and a half. So with that, I mean, you can make an appointment, but walk-ins, forget about it. They're shooing you to go to their online portal. So if you do,
and when you get there, there's not enough answers. They finally updated the unemployment website to be a bit more detailed with actual instructions and explanations of what some of the terms mean. Whereas before, they give you a frequently asked question that didn't answer your question. Sorry,
that's what I'm saying. No, it's proving the point that like technology can only go so far. We need that human touch. It makes things just a little bit easier. You know, if you call a company, you get to speak to someone. Hey, I got, even dealing with insurance companies for car insurance, you're dealing with an automated system now because there's no employees really.
Exactly. Like, let me put a question out to the audience and to you as well, because I know my reaction is not so patient. When you get an automated service that says, thank you for your patience more than once, what is your reaction? Or when they say, would you please select this, this, or this? If you go through more than one sub menu, what is your reaction?
Oh, I get pissed. And a lot of it's just
I just start screaming human.
It's made so you hang up, I think. I truly mean it's made like, oh, we're gonna filter out all the people who can't wait because, for example, most companies, when you call them, you go through this whole loop service, and all you're trying to do is press 0 to speak to an operator. But it's like asking you a million questions.
And they move it around so that it's
to get you to the right department, yet all the right department ends up being the same person behind the desk.
Or it just repeats the message saying, sorry, we need more information. After about 15 times, it appears we're having trouble. We'll connect you to a representative. Please thank you for your patience. And then elevator music for an hour. You want to make me mad? That's a good way to do it.
I hate waiting. And thinking about it, we were just talking about resumes, which isn't really creative writing. It's a necessity to get your resume as best as you possibly can. But that's not the topic for tonight. So in no way was I discrediting the resume. I think every working adult should have one, and I know a lot of working adults who do not,
or who don't know how to write one.
Guys, there's templates out there. If you have Microsoft Word, hey, all of you out there can create an email account, right? It's free. Gmail. On Gmail, there's also
Gmail.
Oh, well, Gmail. I'm not explaining what Gmail is.
I know.
It's free. There's a whole basically word processor on there with templates on creating a resume, which is basically drag and drop your information. Simple. Do it, guys. You will thank me. You will thank yourself. It's worth doing. But on to important topics. On the stuff that I care about is the creative writing.
Sorry.
In school, doing the resumes and financial class, financial literacy, that was never fun. I loved the English courses where they were like, open your mind.
Write what you want.
Write what you want. Creative writing.
Same thing with art class. I hated being told what I had to draw. I'm like, but that's somebody else's artwork. I don't want to copy it. I want to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. The creative writing is like a giant scope of things. It could be anything from writing a story, a
Poetry.
speech, a memoir, plays.
Poetry.
Yes, poetry. And I remember in high school, and even into college, taking poetry, I remember so many people like, do I have to do this? Do I have to? It's not for everyone, because not everybody's a creative thinker.
And it's not just roses are red, violets are blue. Like, there are poems that don't rhyme. There are poems that have a certain specific number of syllables per line and a certain number of lines per poem, like haikus. Like, there's quite a few different forms of writing that are. What do you think about the stories where you choose your own ending?
I love stuff like that. I mean, it gets you thinking. I don't know if you remember any courses in college or whatnot where, or even in high school where someone would start a story. It would be a group activity, and they would give you either a scenario, and as it progressed, each person would add to that story. So it would almost evolve into something else.
I don't think they trusted the kids in our class enough to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if they put profanity and stuff, it would be like, you're all getting an F, you're all failing. But at the same time, those type of things would excite me as a creative thinker. And there's something about creative writing that it opens up a door, endless possibilities.
Another good one is writing exercises that I liked in college was where they made you kind of like you would for a debate team, but where you write about a topic that you don't agree with specifically. And you have to defend that topic. It really forces you to be like, oh, wait a
critical thinking, using your own opinions to form a debate. And I think the problem is with today's society and creative thinking and creative writing, people don't think about the opposing sides. They spout their own ignorance. They put themselves into the equation. Now, creative writing at the end of the day is you, but doing you in a debate, you have to prove your point correct.
Yeah. It also gives you the opportunity to try and have empathy for where the other side is coming from. And that's how you prevent conflict. If you can understand where someone's coming from, perhaps you can kind of navigate before immediately pulling out a gun and shooting him in the face.
I mean, that's an extreme thing.
Well, it
but
just
it's
happened
very...
here. Well, I don't know if it was in the face, but we just had a murder in my town last week.
And that's the thing. People need to. This is the coping mechanism we talked about before. People not being able to cope, and I talked about specifically male masculinity and how people are afraid to express their emotions. So creative writing is a great way to express yourself, because a lot of people, when I was growing up, in my high school was kind of rough and tumble. I didn't want to look like a pussy, spouting my emotions, but I would turn that into lyrics, or I would turn that into poetry, or I would turn that
into art.
Yeah. I would turn it into art. So I express myself in that sort of way. And I know a lot of people, a lot of artists in general, that they use their art as an escape or as an empowerment tool to say what they mean what they say. Because a lot of people have been through some really challenging circumstances that blatantly saying their story isn't about them.
Yeah.
Telling everyone your life story, not everyone's like me and is going to write an autobiography to spill the beans in their life or their internal thoughts. Some people might want to be more cryptic or want to touch people in a way.
Or write about a fictional character that has certain events from their life that is included in it. There's all different ways. And then there's also people who create fan fictions, for example. Like that at first, when I first saw that, I was like, what the hell is this? I'm like, is this a bunch of like crazy ladies at home? Like, but I'm not saying they're crazy, but some of the threads get a little crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just not get it twisted here.
Yeah. No.
The writer of 50 Shades of Grey was a huge Twilight fan. Huge. Yes. She created 50 Shades of Grey based on her fan fiction of Twilight.
Really?
Yeah. She was.
No wonder girls went gaga. They like the vampires.
They loved it so much. She loved it. I mean, there's not vampires in 50 Shades of Grey, but
in
something about it evolved into what we know now as 50 Shades of Grey. So
it's violence and sex combined.
There you go. I mean,
that's what the story of vampirism is, really. I mean, you're biting a woman's neck after hypnotizing her into sleeping with you, turning her into a zombie flesh eater, and then you have the other example.
What do you find personally, I guess, most challenging about writing or completing an idea that you have?
Getting past the first page. Once I start and I get into it, I'm all right. But starting that initial first page and like even just that intro paragraph and the conclusion for me are always very challenging because I really want it to sound compelling. And I want to capture your attention. And a lot of times I'm just like, I got nothing.
I have a similar thing, but my thing, I think, is my own personal anxieties that I need to have, like, I don't want to say I need to have the stars align perfectly, but I need to know, like, do I have enough time to get what I want down? Because once I start something, I'm not the type of person that wants to stop until it's completed. And that could be kind of crazy. That could end bad because then you're overworking your mind. There's no censorship in anything you're doing, and you're exhausted because, like, let's say you're writing a screenplay that's going to end up being 60 to 90 pages long. Well, there goes the weekend because you want to get that thought out of your head, but at the same time, you're not really sitting back and thinking. So my thing is a lot of time anxiety.
Exactly, and like for me, writing. I was lucky that writing and yapping away always kind of came easy to me in the sense that math came like slower than glacial speed, whereas writing just was like easy for me. I was like, oh, you put equations on there? I'm done. It's over. But when it came to writing essays and stuff, especially like I hate MLA format. I'm sorry. It seems like a tedious waste of time. I understand why they do it, but I just wanted to rip those papers. But I always got to the position where people would always come to me to proofread their papers before they handed it in, because despite the fact that I type like a 2-year-old, like when I'm I type like this, but like I type faster than I should, so I end up making a lot of mistakes. And people are like, "What did you say?" And I don't. In chat, I don't do punctuation.
You're like my dad typing with his thumbs. That's funny, but I think it's an important thing that a lot of creative people they think that I think a lot of creative people, they're afraid to really dig deep in their writing without censoring themselves. I think it's
art.
I think it is, and I think until you truly are free, you're kind of imprisoned. Like, you gotta jump out there, say what you want to say, do what you want to do, and come what may with the backlash. I mean, as long as you're not spouting hate, that's one thing. We don't tolerate that, but say what you want to say in this story. Mm-hmm. I think people are so worried about, what are they gonna even with poetry back then? Like, it was so cryptic because poets back then would get blacklisted. And
Uh,
yeah, like you're writing something very controversial for this time. And right now we're at, I don't want to bring politics into the mix, but right now I don't want to say we're in censorship, but a lot of people are getting offended easily. And I'm seeing like musicians.
Our conversation before the show started about talking about just mentioning conspiracies that we don't validate or say are true. I had the concern, like, do I want to talk about this? Is this going to get us canceled because we're talking about an idea that somebody else had? Like, that's the kind of stuff that we're actually discussing before a show starts, and it shouldn't be that way.
There's that Eminem song came out a few years ago, "Love the Way You Lie" with Rihanna. There was this big thing on Twitter and whatever where they were trying to cancel Eminem because these feminist movements where he talked about, I'm going to tie her to the bed and blaze the house on fire is one of the lines. And it's talking about
it's an angry song.
It's an angry song, but I mean,
no worse than DMX.
No worse than DMX or any of these rappers or heavy metal people. But now what we're seeing is this critical eye coming down on a lot of art forms where they're looking at every lyric as if it was law and as if it was like he's advocating for this. But if you listen to the song, he's telling a story about a domestic dispute and people not getting along and not mending. And if we don't allow people to express themselves in sometimes the most raw way, what are we doing?
And not only that, he's not actually going out and doing those things. Like, if he was, he wouldn't be, well, nowadays you don't know, but he wouldn't be still producing music, like on a professional level, if he was going out there burning his wife down and talking about it.
Yeah, it was the idea that he's advocating for this. And it's not just Eminem I'm talking about. It's a slippery slope. If we're going to open up one, now we got to open up all these other cases about lyrics that are kind of questionable over the years from different artists.
Cold outside.
Yeah, like, come on.
You really think that was written about rape? Come on.
And we're talking about stuff like that, "Old Baby, It's Cold Outside," and people are like enraged, right? Yet I'm not seeing the amount of rage that Bill Cosby is walking free.
Yeah.
Bill
Cosby. Why is he getting out?
Off the record or on the record.
Serial rapist.
He's a rapist.
Serial.
He's a rapist. But and you know what his plan is? This 80-something-year-old man, he's going on a comedy tour. This is ludicrous.
Is he going to still be family friendly?
I mean, no, he might as well just go balls to the wall. Maybe he should start throwing roofies in the audience. Not even trying to be funny.
Quaaludes for everybody!
I'm not even trying to downgrade it. I stand with the women. And I'm not just saying it as a political stance.
He's a scumbag.
I stand with all the women, the Weinsteins. He's on the caliber of the Weinsteins, if you ask me. You're talking about rapists, people that use their power
to coercion,
get what they wanted. And the reason I'm even bringing up him right now is we're talking about the censorship with a lot of writers and the fear to move forward in their own projects, whether it's a song, whether it's you're writing a novel, but, this is too risque. Listen. Do what you want to do.
I admit I gave into it myself. Last year, I really was going to do either a photo documentary or video, because I had both footage and photos of all the... I went and covered protests my own just to get the view from my own viewpoint. Yet I was afraid to post it because of the backlash. Because what I saw wasn't what I was seeing and everything. And it wasn't just one side or the other. It was like, this is like really surreal. But if I were to write that, I'd be a conspiracy theorist. Like, I'll admit, I check it out. Not proud of it, but
it's never too late to pick that up. And
I still have all the stuff.
Advocating for people to move forward. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're the greatest writer of all time. You got people like Dr. Seuss who they're looking at his manuscripts from years ago and saying this is racist or, this is sexist or whatever from a few books in his selection. The issue here is, for me, people make mistakes and time people's emotions change over time.
Yeah.
So is it important to erase history or things that have
No.
happened? Or is it important to look back at it and say, hey,
You embrace it. You don't
we
erase
embrace the mistakes so we don't forget them. That's the whole, it's like that thing we talked about in a few episodes back, how we said, there's the people out there that they want to erase the idea that the Holocaust existed. Doing stuff like that only does one thing.
It's just like us having all the conspiracies that have gone around this past year, drinking kids' bloods to, everything gets linked to everything out. And then all of a sudden the government comes out and says, oh, yeah, by the way, we found aliens. Like, what's that all about? Why did that get a little bit more reaction?
Yeah, I saw that. That was creepy. Not gonna lie.
Like, they didn't say flat out that they're aliens, but the guy's like, yo, we don't know what the hell this is. So even if it's not an alien and it's another country doing military or some rogue group in our own country, that's something to be concerned about.
Off topic. I totally believe they're out there, and it's wild.
We can write a story about it.
Maybe our next episode we'll talk about aliens. But on to creative writing. So like when you think of creative writing for you personally, what does it do for you? In a sense that, like, does it stress you out, or is it something that helps like you detox a little bit?
It depends. If it's a fun story that is talking about something that raises nostalgia and like makes me happy or makes me laugh or something like that, to like writing a novel, to me, like, I don't know that I would ever have the patience to sit down and write a novel. I don't have that kind of patience to sit and type because I fall asleep every 5 seconds. That's why I don't like editing, because I'm like, like, it's annoying. It takes 4 hours to do something that should take 30 minutes, unless I'm standing up. But what was your question?
Like, what does it do? Like, writing in general, what does it do for you? Like, does it stress you out, or is it something that like helps you, motivate you? And you kind of answered it in your own way, how it gives you different.
It stresses me out and it gives me relief at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
it stresses me out in the
I understand it.
Of thinking about having to do it and having to complete it and put it together, and then when I'm done, it's kind of, once I'm in the process of writing, quite often it's about very emotional stuff. When it's that kind, then I find it very painful but cathartic at the same time.
Dude, when I was writing my book, there was moments where I'm the type of person where I'll listen to a song on repeat, and literally my brain gets fried because I want to stay in that emotional set. So if I'm in a really tragic part of the book, in a way it's like how method actors feel the pain. In a way, I feel like I'm reliving the moment as much as I can, and it's sometimes really tough to get through. But I think that's what gets the most honest delivery for the material I'm trying to write. And people are like, why do you punish yourself like this? I feel the need. It's almost like an emotional purge.
I get through my drawings.
Yeah, you get an emotional purge. You could be like weeping through this, through the story, but you wanted that.
Yeah.
You wanted to relive that for whatever reason.
You're terrified of it at the same time.
And then I think the fear of it is, how is people going to react to this scene? Are they going to have the same impact? How are you going
to react? Like, is it when you really delve into something that's like, if you've been through like, everybody has troubles, but if you've been through something that is dark and very, very hard to talk about, and a lot of people have, it's not something that you like. That's a scary thing to delve into, because that's the one thing that's like the most sensitive thing in your past as far as traumas go, and you're gonna go write a story about it. That ain't easy.
And that's just like, I guess that's a far-fetched thing, because this is something new to me, writing a book personally about myself. I mean, not new now, but my whole life has been creating stories about other things, creating my own world. And I think a lot of writers out there, which I find awesome, that I learn from too, is people that are world builders. Yeah, they build an entire universe. When you think of when people think of the Lord of the Rings, they don't realize that the books are so detailed and that he created an entire universe.
The Silmarillion was a book that he wrote just as an encyclopedic record of a fictional planet. Just
That's awesome.
to be a support for the book. Like, that's insane.
Extra knowledge, for the
They
reader.
created languages, like movies too. Like, they create languages for their stories.
And that's brilliant. I urge all writers to really think outside the box, because right now it's easier than ever to publish your work. When I talk to people that are like a little older, in their 50s or older, that aren't so tech savvy, which a lot of them are now, they just got on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize that you can publish your book right now.
The fact that we're doing this right now.
This is public. We're publishing our spoken word, but
Yeah.
people out there, like with their written material, you could take your freaking notes, your handwritten notes, and publish them now. And there's, like I said, we talked about the responsibility of what you put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should write whatever you want, get whatever's off your mind, whatever song, whatever poem, whatever story, whatever novel, whatever.
You don't have to share it either.
Exactly. You should get it all off your chest. And then you should sit with it for a moment and think.
That's what a journal's about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's a form of creative writing too. One of the things that my fiance is working on is she does a bujo, which is basically a journal, and it's almost a tracking sheet that's very artistic, but it's basically what you ate every day, how long you exercised every day, how long you watched TV that day. It's almost tracking everything. So then, and how your mood was in those days. So she can look back and say, okay, this day I was feeling kind of off, but I ate this, this, and this. And I also the same day I ate this, this, and this, and I didn't work out.
And so strangely, the next day, all the advertises matched exactly what I did yesterday.
Actually, yeah. So it really is. And then it tracks a lot of things, but it's a creative way to track your things. But in a way, it's a creative writing journal. Mm-hmm. And it pushes you to fix your own issues. And it also, like, it shows you, like, maybe how mundane your life could be and how to fix it. Like, wait a minute, for the last 3 weekends, we did the same fucking thing. Why don't we change it up a bit? So journals are very important, I think, for creative writers. And they actually say, I see a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials that talk about creative people that have amazing ideas and they forget them.
Yeah.
They say to keep a journal on you at all times. They actually say, keep a notebook beside your bed, because a lot of creative people, their most creative thoughts happen when they wake up from a dream.
I've started doing voice recordings because I know myself. I've tried many, many times to do journaling because I know the positive effects that can come from doing a daily journal and like looking, because I've done them before. I've like a couple I actually, managed to do for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time. For me, that was a stretch. But doing audio notes sometimes is good for me because I can go back and listen to the emotion in my own voice. And I'm basically, it's not writing, but I'm getting out my thoughts in spoken language, whether it's written or spoken. It's not quite the same, but it would be kind of stuff that I would be writing and then crossing out and then rewriting and then crossing out and then rewriting and then erasing and then finally get it right. And it's like, my pages used to look like somebody had like a spitball attack on them or something. It wasn't good.
To add what you're saying, though, there's a lot of programs out there that are actually talk to text. And those are forms of creative writing as well. I actually did it with they're somewhat affordable.
The good ones.
If
you wanted to actually understand what you're saying with ease and not be like, I went to the market and then have Siri go, I'm a unicorn.
No, I spent about $80 on my program. What the important is to follow the directions. I use this program called, I believe it's called Dragonwire. I'll put it in the description afterwards.
Yeah, they're good.
With that is, you have to enunciate. If you aren't speaking properly, it won't hear you. And it doesn't, and there's a lot of words out there that we use that are Spanglish or broken English or curse words. Slang that aren't words. But what you can do is you can put them in your vocabulary on those spoken word systems. For example, if you say like Badussy, balls, dick, pussy. If you say Badussy, you can put it in your vocabulary.
Do you notice that with Siri, like the voice recognition, when you're writing something, if you try to say the F word, it tries to correct you into saying something else. And then when you try to say it, but it'll show up in the list of suggested words like last. It's like, no, that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I wrote. That's what I want to write.
Well, like I said, those programs at first, I'm like, damn, they're censoring me. It's just not a part of the vocabulary. You're going to have to add some stuff.
It should be by now.
It should be.
It's in the dictionary.
When you're writing these words, or when you're doing a creative writing project, especially if it's like a story, you're going to say some off the wall stuff. Mm-hmm. Chances are someone's going to be frustrated. They're going to drop an F-bomb or whatever, an insult of some kind. You just put it in the vocabulary. The reason why I'm all for it is I'm somebody, I like to write, but if I'm not in the mood and I'll be pacing around listening to music, the spoken word technology that will help type it out, get my internal thoughts out of my head and write on a Microsoft Word document. And some people,
or voice note recorder.
What I'm saying right now, for people that don't know that these programs exist, this could be like people just don't have the patience to sit down sometimes.
No, I don't. That's my problem. Is like, it becomes like homework to me because it's something that I know is going to be an emotional, hey, I can make finger puppets. Sorry. I quite often, if I'm writing something, it's because I'm in an emotional mood. Like that's when I want to write. And then when I'm thinking about it, I procrastinate about doing it because I don't want to feel the pain of what I'm going to go through as I'm writing that. And so I end up putting it off, and then I end up sticking it in a drawer, and then I use it for like taking notes of phone numbers or things like that. I'm like, this was supposed to be a journal.
Mm-hmm. It's tough. I always said the importance of journaling. I mean, I don't personally journal, but I think that my writing that I've done, my creative writing, as far as my screenplays and my autobiography, I think it tells pretty much what I'm thinking or what I've thought or my emotions in general. But I think for people that aren't willing to go that far, a journal's important because, like, I guess your note on the world, God forbid anything ever happened to you, people truly know your internal thought. If that matters to you, because once you're gone, you're gone. It doesn't matter. But it's so funny, like, not funny, but when you go to a funeral or something and someone's like, I was always there for Johnny.
It's like, no, you weren't. You
and
hated him. You wanted his money.
Bill, that just passed away, wrote in the diary, like, man, Johnny was an asshole his whole life. I mean, I guess that's the importance, I guess your after note, but not even to get into that. I think the main importance is to write freely. And, before you put out there things for the world, make sure you do it properly, or else, you're going to get picked apart.
And if you're going to sorry, I'm trying to fix this light without getting it wet. So yeah, continue with what you're saying.
Yeah. Like people out there, a lot of criticism with, authors that go straight to Amazon, Amazon KDP, automatic publishing. The big thing is anybody can do it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, like, let's say you're not a scholar, you're not an English major, and you slap together stuff. You don't even do a spell check on the manuscript, and you publish it. The format's all scrambled up. You doing something like that, I guess, messes it up for the true authors there that really put their craft on the line. They did the extra few steps. So, like, what I tell people is, spend some time on this before you get ridiculed. Yeah. Or, it's out there published. So once you publish it,
even what we say here is out there permanently, whether we want it to be or not. You can delete it, but if they want to find it, they can find it. Like, so let's say you say something embarrassing that could harm your career in the future. You can go back and just look at what people say on social media and be like, by the way, about that, you're fired.
Yeah.
And take it out of context.
Mm-hmm. One of my cousins actually lost basically a career. His first real job, he was working there for almost a decade, and he was a musician and he wrote a song, put it on YouTube, and it wasn't vulgar. It was his views on a particular, point he had, and they looked at it as a sort of hate speech, and even though it wasn't. Their idea was his religious views were like, they were excluding people, and he lost his job over that. And I guess that's the ultimate fear of losing your job over being creative and putting yourself out there. But I think him personally, he feels more accomplished, even though he lost his job. He got to speak his mind of what he truly believed. Whether I agree, whether you agree, his voice is heard. So we can't always appease everyone. You're never going to. So, and not everything is not every bit of creative writing
freedom of speech.
needs
a
debate. Yeah, like not all creative writing is meant to create some sort of friction. You could just have a good time. You could just,
the Declaration of Independence is one of the most creative pieces of like writing you can think of. Like, think of how it like checks itself in its own document. Same thing with Magna Carta. Like it basically gives its own checks and balances in the document. So when you look at all the other amendments, it actually has a thing in there saying like you can't amend the original Constitution. Like you can add bills and things like that. But
and that's what's getting creative now is when people are looking at the original Constitution, and the more progressives, when the progressives are the ones that truly want to amend that document creatively, that match a time period that is much different from what was written.
Yeah,
things that were written in there. When you think of like the diehard conservatives that look at the Constitution, they look at that as law forever, divine. It cannot be changed or altered. When the world has changed around that document, so the progressives want to alter it for the better in their mind. So like they got to find a middle ground.
You can't be too rigid. You can't be too radical.
And that's where a lot of debates go. But like I said, it is important to have these creative debates and speak your mind and opinion. So without those differences, it'd be a very boring conversation.
I could just throw you in prison if I don't like what you have to say.
It's a very boring world if we all agree on everything, and there's no, everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid.
I forget who said it, but like I remember my dad used to quote it all the time when I was a kid, and I remember the first time he asked me, he's like, what's one thing that no one can take away from you, and no one can stop you from doing? The freedom to think what you want. You may not say it out loud, you may not write it, you may not express it, but no one can control what's in your head unless you let them. And that in and of itself is a choice.
Yeah. You know what?
To a degree.
I think as long as you have a value, I don't think there is a reason. As long as it's doing something for you personally on whatever,
and not causing massive harm and not exaggerating like, oh, I need a safe room because you said the word, ugly. Like whatever the like.
Well, what's funny? You're bringing that up, and we're talking about creative writing. Is there's a lot of ads here on the wonderful Facebook and from companies. So there was a company where this girl was wearing like a wig of some sort, really cheap looking wig, and pretty girl, and she was advertising clothes or whatever, and people were like talking about like this horrendous wig, like, you guys are really advertising this, like she looks like a Teletubby or whatever they said. And like people were writing the company, like automated message or whatever, the robot or somebody that's their PR person kept on writing like, you have to understand that words have weight and can destroy people.
They can.
I believe that, but she's also advertising clothes.
Yeah.
The model is like that aesthetic.
It has to. You have to apply common sense to that.
But it was like any person that had a criticism of any sort about like, man, these clothes are like, they look like the clearance bin in Salvation Army. Like people were saying legit opinions, like this looks like shit. But they kept on writing comments about like their words are hurting people about this and about that. And they weren't really coming at the model saying she was ugly or horrendous. No. They were saying like, who the fuck puts together Helen Keller? Like someone that couldn't see? Like they didn't understand why someone would have a criticism against their company. And I think I don't know.
I
I
mean,
think
runway
people,
models, their job is to wear the clothes that is created by another artist who is the fashion designer. They don't have to like the clothes that they're wearing. They're getting paid to do a job. That job is to put on clothing and walk down the runway, and look good doing it. So
absolutely,
if you got a problem with the person who made the clothes, then that's one thing, but don't tear the model apart. It's stupid.
absolutely.
And even then, like, you're allowed to say what you want, but should you? Like, it's moderation of your own actions. Like,
That's a whole story in itself. The difference between saying what you want and should you. That's like a whole other topic about the freedom of speech, which nothing to do with creative writing, in my opinion, because I don't agree that some people should speak their mind. I'm with that, but I don't believe in censorship. But like, there's some people out there but that to me is that's a moral thing. There is always going to be trolls out there and people that just want to hurt you. For example,
like Michael Malice, for example, I find him very fascinating. Do you know who he is?
no, I don't.
Okay, so I don't agree with 9 out of 10 things that he says. I still like to listen to him. He's an anarchist. And I think, while he brings up a point or two that are like valid, but the rest of the points, I'm like, you realize it's going to end up with, like, you know, wah, 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 wah. Like that's the direction you're going with what you want based on what you're saying. And do I agree with it? No. But do I want to hear what he has to say? I can choose whether or not I want to.
Well, for someone like that, that would be more entertainment. Other than that's like the
Yeah.
earth, the flat earthers out there. That would be. I would want to hear what they have to say because of entertainment.
Yeah, it makes me
Not
laugh.
because I agree with them at all on any level, but I mean, it's their freedom of speech. But like when I talked about it before, people go out of their way on social media, on reviews, on Yelp, Amazon. Trust me, I have friends that have published movies on Amazon Prime. Some guy out of nowhere just will give it 1 star and then write a terrible ass review. He didn't have to. And it's his opinion. So is his
Since the
opinion not
election, when was the
valid?
last time you heard about QAnon except for like the month afterwards? Suddenly it evaporated.
It evaporated. A lot of things evaporated. I mean, today in the workplace, being a conspiracy theorist, people that are vaccinated don't have to wear a mask. But those that are vaccinated are not vaccinated have to wear 2.
And they're thinking of making a third COVID booster shot from Pfizer.
Yeah. Totally different topic.
Just read that article today. Sorry for going backwards on this,
but it's always relevant, though. It always comes back to the relevant thing. So, like, I think a lot of writers out here, correct me if I'm wrong, they think when they're writing that a lot of them quit because they think that their first draft of whatever they're writing, whatever song, poem, is going to be a masterpiece. And if it's not a masterpiece right off the jump, they quit.
Or they just think that everything they make is crap.
Listen, I think my first draft of anything is trash. It's got to be. It's like, yeah, really?
No,
like,
I always know that I can do better on a technical level. Yes, I will point out definitely. Like, but do I think it's crap? Sometimes, yes, it's legit less than crap. Like, even some of my photos or some of my drawings, I'm like, I'll rip it in half and be like, yeah, let's start that again because that one sucked. But despite that, strangely enough, with all of my own like hang-ups that I have up here about self-esteem and everything like that, when it comes to the artwork that I make, I like it. I really want to share it with people. And then I immediately go back, not hating it, but looking, what can I do better? And I get excited about challenging myself to do it better the next time. And it's the only thing in my life where I don't get bogged down by that kind of self-doubt. It's like, I know that I'm good at what I do, not being cocky, just like I've worked at it for a long time. I mean, it's going on 15 years or 14 years or something. I don't know how many it is now, but it's enough time to get good at what you're doing if you practice anything. 14 years, unless you're an imbecile or just have some sort of limitation that doesn't allow you to do it.
I just think with creative, like when you're talking about a creative writing, when a lot of authors, writers in general, they write something and there's a lot more work into crafting it.
Oh yeah.
Second reads, third reads, having editors, and even with poetry, getting it right the first time is very challenging. So
sometimes it's one word that can literally make a story from like, yeah, that's kind of a good ending to like, Holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
when you get goosebumps at the end of a book, like, how awesome is that?
Like when you're reading anything from like Walter Whitman and just how magical his poems are, and when they end on a perfect note, that's a masterpiece. But do you really think Walter Whitman sat down and he wrote that out real quick and it was published? No, he took
Like Edgar
There's
Allan
probably, like-
Poe, too. Like, think about it. The guy killed himself. The guy was not mentally okay with what he wrote. Like, he didn't like anything that he made for the most part, but he had to do it. And it's some of the most dark, yet darkly beautiful poetry that you could read.
Mhm.
Creepy as hell, though.
I think the main objective here and what we're trying to say is, get your internal thoughts out and then worry about the technicalities later, because maybe maybe it's just a brainstorming session. I don't know how many times with creative
Maybe you need
writing.
a ghostwriter.
Yeah, that's another whole story in general. I mean, sometimes you're the creator of the story, but you're not the writer.
Mhm.
Somebody else is the creative writer.
I mean, for me, myself, like, in life, I quite often come up with a lot of ideas, and I'm good at getting them started, but other people are good at keeping me motivated to finish them because I end up getting distracted by the next new thing.
There's a lot of taboo in itself about ghost writers. And I want to destigmatize that in general, because not everybody is a creative writer, but sometimes the creative force behind it, the creator, the story, is somebody that's not a writer. They've never
written
anything.
They may be able to say it verbally in a most compelling way, but the moment they try to write it, it's like...
Mm-hmm. I'm not even gonna lie. At points in my life, I thought about, like, as far as like a memoir or something, having those ideas. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I thought about that at one point because, like, can I tell this story compelling enough? Will I be able to do it? I mean, I didn't end up taking that option, but it was a thought that ran through my head. I'm not going to lie. So I don't really think there should be a taboo behind it, but
no,
there is.
One other thing before we go, stream of consciousness writing is also a really neat exercise to try. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically, I don't know if that's the name for it, but basically you start writing any thoughts that come into your head verbatim as fast as you can. You just keep on writing, and you get to a point where you almost get like into an automatic state where your hand is moving along with your thoughts. And when you go back and read it, some of it's like, you'll see your handwriting change with the emotion. You'll see the font change. Sometimes it looks like different people are actually writing. You'll see the undulation of your thought patterns, and it really gives you an idea of how wacky your brain is and how wonderful it is at the same time.
And that probably, in a way, I don't think, I've never heard of it like that, but someone like me who has to get their thoughts out, I've had manuscripts sit for over a year before I go back to them, because like I'll blast through like 3-4 chapters, and then life happens.
Yeah,
I got to go to work.
I have the same fear when it comes to editing videos, because
if you don't get it completed, sometimes they just sit.
Yeah. I mean, I have so much footage that I need to do something with, and just like somebody being afraid to, or not being good at putting it on paper, or not having the skill to do it yet, I sometimes am just like, the thought of doing it makes me not do it.
Yeah. And that's what it is, I think.
And I've already done the work for it.
It's like a semi procrastination in a way.
Oh, it is. 100%.
So
keep writing,
anyways,
everybody.
guys, keep writing, keep on getting creative. Listen, if you guys have a topic you want us to discuss in further episodes, we would love to do it. As you see, our background, we got our little logo up. Things are changing around us, and we're going to get more involved as the weeks continue. Thank you guys for watching tonight. Have a great one.
Sounds good, man. Take it easy.
Right. Have a good one.
Bye.